There is a stretch of coastline where the land meets the Black Sea in a long, quiet line. In the early hours, the light is faint and soft, just enough to touch the outlines of the buildings and the faint curve of the shoreline. Mist settles low along the ground. It sits quietly between the grasses and the thin dirt paths that lead away from the airport. Birds move slowly through the morning air, their calls carried gently across the open fields. Varna Airport looks still from a distance. The terminal windows hold the pale reflection of dawn. A plane waits on the tarmac, motionless, its shape cutting a quiet silhouette against the muted sky. Nothing in the landscape appears rushed. Nothing seems out of place. It is the kind of morning where time feels slowed, as if deliberately giving space for unanswered questions and unresolved stories. In this calm, something happened once, quietly, suddenly, and then faded into the stillness. Among the many people who moved through this landscape was a young man named Lars Mittank. He arrived as thousands of travelers do each year, for a short holiday, a break from routine, a simple trip with friends. He was 28. He worked. He had a family who cared for him. He was known for being friendly, quiet in some settings, talkative in others, depending on the day. His life, at least from the outside, seemed ordinary and full in the way many lives are, made of familiar schedules, shared moments, and small details that do not attract attention until they become the last known pieces of a story. During his stay in Bulgaria, something shifted. An injury, a brief altercation, a medical recommendation to avoid flying until his eardrum healed. These events are documented, but the emotions behind them are not, and so the narrative becomes soft at the edges. A series of known movements surrounded by long stretches of uncertainty. The days that followed would lead him to a hotel room, to anxious phone calls, to moments captured by security cameras, and finally, to the open landscape that surrounds the airport. From there, the record grows quiet. When his friends flew home, Lars chose, or perhaps felt compelled, to stay behind. He checked into a modest hotel near Varna Airport. Staff members later said he appeared uneasy at times, looking over his shoulder, pausing without clear reason, speaking with a tension that was difficult to define. But accounts vary. Memories shift. What one person remembers as fear, another might describe as caution, or confusion, or something else entirely. Still, CCTV footage from the hotel shows him moving through hallways, stepping in and out of view, walking with intention, yet pausing often as if listening to something or considering something unseen. The night before he attempted to fly home, Lars made several phone calls. One call in particular to his mother has been repeated often. He told her things felt strange, that he did not feel safe. But it is unclear what he meant. His tone is remembered by family, but recordings do not exist. Interpretation fills the gaps. The next morning, July 8th, 2014, Lars made his way to the airport. He carried his luggage. He had his passport. He had the intention, it seemed, to return home. Inside the terminal, he met with the airport doctor to evaluate whether he could fly. This part is known. He entered the room calmly and sat for the examination. Something happened then, though the details remain unclear. The doctor later said that Lars reacted suddenly, as if startled or frightened. He stood up. He moved quickly to the door. His footsteps echoed in the hallway. CCTV shows him running. First through the terminal, then out of the building, and finally across the parking area into the openness beyond. He left behind everything he carried, his phone, his wallet, his identification. Only his movement continued forward. Outside the airport, the land stretches into openness before giving way to small patches of forest and fields brushed by wind. Witnesses saw him run across the road and disappear toward a tree line. A man working nearby reported seeing him climb a fence and move quickly into tall grass. After that, there were no confirmed sightings. Search teams moved through the area in the days and weeks that followed. They mapped the terrain, checked fields, walked through wooded paths, and looked along the edges of industrial sites near the airport boundaries. No belongings were recovered, no clothing, no trace that could be definitively linked to him. Nothing that answered where he went or why. The land itself offered no explanation. The stillness returned almost immediately. The items Lars left behind at the airport were gathered and examined. A suitcase packed for a casual trip. Clothing folded simply, a passport. A phone with no unusual activity recorded prior to his disappearance. These objects remain ordinary. They do not signal intention. They do not tell a hidden story. They only show that he expected, at some point, to use them again. They are markers of a life paused, not a life explained. Objects often feel like anchors in uncertain stories. But here, they sit quietly, without offering clarity. As with many unresolved disappearances, interpretations grew over time. Some believe Lars may have been frightened, not by something real, necessarily, but by a perception that felt real to him in that moment. It is possible his head injury contributed to dizziness, stress, or disorientation, making ordinary sensations feel overwhelming. Others suggest that he may have experienced a temporary psychological crisis. Moments like that can emerge suddenly, without warning, and without later explanation. A few believe he might have sought safety in the only direction that felt open, away from buildings, away from noise, toward the landscape that offered silence. But these remain possibilities only. No single theory contains enough certainty to stand alone. The story rests in a place between facts and unknowns, where speculation feels heavy and silence feels more honest. If you stand today near the place where he ran, you see a landscape shaped by distance. The airport hums quietly behind you. The road carries occasional vehicles, their sound fading quickly into the open air. Ahead, the fields stretch toward low clusters of trees. The grass shifts slowly, as if breathing with the wind. It is a landscape that can hold a person for only a moment before the horizon takes them in. The sense of scale makes the final sighting of Lars feel both immediate and impossibly distant. The land does not explain itself, it simply remains. Year after year, the same gentle wind moves across it, and the same silence settles when evening comes. The disappearance of Lars Mittank has lingered for years. It sits within the spaces that open when answers fail to appear. Time has moved forward, yet the story has stayed still. His family continues to hope, holding on to the possibility that he may someday be found or recognized, or that a new detail might surface and bridge the distance between what is known and what is missing. But the land around Varna Airport keeps its quiet. The paths through the grass remain unchanged. Travelers come and go without noticing the story that once passed through the same air they breathe. Some disappearances do not resolve. They do not close. They remain open spaces in the memory of those left behind. And so the story of Lars Mittank settles into that space, gentle, unfinished, carried by silence, by wind, by time, and by the quiet hope that uncertainty, someday, may give way to understanding.